strengthening relations between Ghana and the U.S.
During her period as U.S. ambassador here, 2018 to 2022, already good relations between Ghana and the United States has been evident and visible. Whether in the area of trade or health or agriculture or governance or security, we've witnessed a significant expansion and consolidation of the ties between our two countries. And at the heart of this process has been this indefatigable, consummate professional, the Honorable Stephanie S. Sullivan.
To Mrs. Stephanie Sullivan, the opportunity to contribute to bilateral relations between the two countries is an honor, and to have made contributions to Ghana's social interventions programs gives her great joy.
When I reflect on the past 3+ years, I'm proud of how we invested in people, making a major difference in the lives of thousands of Ghanaians in public health, literacy, clean water, agribusiness, and peace and security.
Who was accompanied by a deputy who is expected to take over her role. Her husband, John, and other staff of the embassy promised to keep Ghana close to her heart on her next duty post.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, says Ghanaians must have confidence in the Akufo-Addo administration to navigate the nation positively through the present economic storms because fundamentally the NPP has a track record of doing so.
Make her great and strong.
It was a much-anticipated lecture by the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, on the economy, which came about due to the current economic difficulties the country is experiencing. Prices have soared in all sectors, from petroleum products, building materials, food, among others. On the podium, Dr. Bawumia acknowledged the situation in the country and said it is a global situation brought on by and Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Countries and economies throughout the world are experiencing severe challenges following the COVID-19 pandemic and the more recent Russia-Ukraine war. The pandemic, which started early in 2020, resulted in the greatest economic depression since the 1930s. With most countries recording negative growth. Supply chain disruptions and the rising price of oil has resulted in the prices of fuel going up across the globe, with petrol prices doubling in most countries. In fact, in the world today, the highest petroleum prices can be found in countries like Hong Kong, the Netherlands, Zimbabwe, Germany, Israel, and the United Kingdom. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, the global average cost of shipping a container has increased from $1,446 in 2019. The global average cost for shipping a container has gone up from $1,446 in December 2019 to $9,789 as at February 2022.
He, however, urged Ghanaians to trust in the government to put measures in place to reduce the harsh impact of these two external factors on Ghanaians, because such was the situation in 2016 before they assumed office and which was turned around.
Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, which has impacted all economies in the world, we stabilized the economy. We reduced inflation. We doubled economic growth in the first 3 years. We reduced the rate of depreciation of the cedi. The average depreciation from 2017 to 2020 was the lowest since 1992.
He said there is lots of hope ahead and Ghanaians must not throw their hands in despair.
We are on the right path with sound policies to enhance growth, fiscal and monetary policy discipline, and by the grace of God, we are bouncing back better and stronger. We will weather the storm We will turn this tide. We will continue to work tirelessly for the good of this nation. There is no doubt that the future of Ghana is brighter and safer under our economic management.
Reacting to Dr. Bawumia's lecture on Thursday, an associate professor from the University of Ghana Business School Finance Department, Professor Lord Mensah, says Dr. Bawumia made several conflicting statements during the lecture and was of the view that there should have been an opportunity for questions to explain the disparities.
He appreciated the fact that the economy is how you feel in your pocket.
Yes, he did say that.
But then, he's not saying that we have the money in our pocket already. But then measures being put in place as we speak now. And the belief is in the measures. And then also the various investments they have done, will definitely yield, over the years. But the question now comes into mind, as in, okay, fine. If you're doing 1D, 1F, right, and you've had, about 100 and something factories.
106 with a completed 140 something under at various stages of completion.
Exactly.
And hopefully to be completed
right.
soon.
Would you admit that, because the factory will create employment. The factory will create, multiplier effect. Where people are going to buy and sell and that continuity effect. But then would there be admission that, the economy is in your pocket? That's where I'm coming from. So it looks like, the first statement that was made, the economy is how you feel in your pocket, contradict most of the things that were outlined. And that also brings about inconsistencies in our tax policies. Tax policies are very, very key for the investor to make a decision. If you have your tax policy today here at a particular level, the next time you have moved it to one point at a different level, it brings about that kind of inconsistencies. And
a data privacy consultant, Emmanuel Gatsu, has hinted on the need for kids to learn coding at an early stage because it broadens a child's mind and gives them additional skills for the future. On GTV Breakfast, Mr. Gatsu said coding will become a prerequisite for employment in the foreseeable future.
We live in a very competitive world, and things are becoming more competitive than it used to be. All right, so any employer or any area, we would want people with additional skills. So for your child to be on top, to be selected to be among the best, he should have more skills or additional skills compared to the other colleagues. Then that will make him or her more marketable than the others. And upon all that, because of the benefits, the creativity in the child coming out at those stages, it is imperative that parents would enroll their children in these courses so that right from the beginning they could match up with their colleagues. So in 10 years it will become the de facto standard that we would expect every child to be able to code. It is going to have a tremendous change because these days we are digitizing everything and it is making life easier.
Still on news, the Ghana Police Service has launched a special operation aimed at ensuring strict compliance to road traffic regulations by motorcyclists. The operation, dubbed Police Action Against Riders, will see a special team of police riders with body cams stationed around major intersections and other strategic locations to monitor the activities of motorcyclists. It said errant drivers will be prosecuted, named and shamed. It added that the operation will be rolled out in phases together with all other stakeholders involved in road safety in the country. The Director of Public Affairs at the Police Affairs Directorate of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Alexander Obeng, sheds more light on the campaign. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Now, do you have an idea of the road carnages involving motorcyclists in the country?
Thank you for the opportunity and good afternoon to listeners. I think currently first quarter now over for this year, we can January there's marginal reduction motor crashes by almost 1.1%, and so the figure stands at 3,932 recorded road crashes, as compared to year by now, which stood at 4,009. And the marginal reduction has also impacted on those that have been involved in crashes by 6,830 first quarter last year to 6,587, and 3 months impacted on persons that have been killed. It's also reduced by 4.80% from 771 that died last year to 734. And same can also be reported for those who are injured, from 4,200 to 4,025 this quarter. The notable one is, though there's reduction, there's still it's still high in terms of motorcycle-related injuries and deaths. Though it's a significant reduction of 9.73% over the same period last year in terms of those that were involved in motorcycle crashes, from 583,000.
All right, Superintendent. So if you compare a quick one, if you compare that of last year and the first quarter of this year, was there an increase or a decrease in motorcycle crashes?
There is however, if of the 734 Ghanaians who have, or motorists who have died on the road, 305 of them are as a result of motorcycle that caused their death. It's still on the higher side, though if you compare with the same period last year, it is lower. And it's in this light of ensuring that all of us put pressure on all the indicators and behaviors that are responsible for road crashes and use and damage to go very long with help. And that's why we have police proactive strategies of ensuring that vehicle owners and riders among us, this rollout strategy or operating for party action against rider indiscipline, which is one of the gamut of operations that or enforcement activities that will be rolled out in due course to ensure that motorcycle riders who will not comply with traffic signal, including notably non-compliance with traffic signal regulations of non-compliance with stop lines and will run. There are trained traffic police officers who are riders on police motorbikes who day and night will track them down and apprehend them, knowing very well that alongside this operation, there are deployed ICT capacity to detect the offenders in when they are committing, and therefore there will be adequate evidence that will be added on the charge sheet to appropriate motor court for adjudication. We know that after the adjudication, there will also be a strategy of naming and shaming, and this is being rolled out in the city. And in due course, it will be in all police 18 jurisdictions.
All right, sir. So what offenses should these cyclists be mindful of?
I would like to remind motorcycle owners and riders that they have a responsibility. And these responsibilities are outlined as what they should be mindful of. Otherwise, they will be detected and put before court. I.e., the motorcycles are all supposed to be registered with a registered number of plates, not obscured at the rear, or where the plates are supposed to be. Insurance and road review should accompany the rider on it to ensure that he has license A, which is valid, and he is in appropriate riding gear, particularly crash helmet, and in terms of in-traffic behavior, that normally expose most of these vulnerable motorists to crashes and needless dangerous injury that is sustained. They are all supposed to ensure that they comply with road rules, i.e., when they get to the junctions, which are signalized or in particular, they are supposed to stop at red and allow others who have the right to move to also move. Anybody who run red light with the motorbike will be tracked down and arrested in real time as they do. Our police officers are out there looking out together with our cameras mounted and to ensure that they will be forthcoming at the motor courts.
All right, sir. Before you go, there have been several campaigns in the past on the use of motorcycles or even on road crashes and carnage. How different will this be from all those we've had in the past?
You see, as part of our police service, among other services that we deliver, is going to ensure that we roll out strategies, both proactive and reactive, that will enhance the public health and safety responsibility placed in them. Therefore, as part of our routine strategies, we deploy to reactively detect, and this has become part of it. It's become now, Operation Parry has become part of our routine, where we will deploy on motorbikes dedicated at traffic intersections where problems of motorcycle are present, and we are out there to deal with it around the clock, with the hope that all will comply and behave akin to our compatriots who are in the northern region, and then upper motorbicycles are owned by same, and when they ride and they get to signalized junctions in the Tamale metropolis and in Wa area, they stop when it is red. We expect that they will do same. If they do same, there will not be any need to sustain it, isn't it? Until it is stopped and behavior change. We'll continue to be proactive like I'm doing to sensitize, and we ensure that we also become very reactive to ensure that those who will not comply, the repeat offenders among others, will be detected, supported by information which is of evidential value because it's photographic and it is captured by us, processed and given to the court. And it will go ahead to prosecute, and we will not be surprised. Please don't come in. We will not be surprised. For example, between of the number of active deployments we have made across the country, motor vehicle related offences. 808 offenders have been put before court.
It's
what is in jail, the rest
we see
608,000 to 950 others. I mean,
well, we seem to
add on it for us for sure.
Okay.
People are forthcoming and have sent
We seem to be losing Superintendent Alexander being on the line, so we would continue this conversation another time. We've been speaking to him about the special operation launched by the Ghana Police Service, dubbed Police Action Against Rider Indiscipline. Work is officially underway on the construction of the Eastern Regional Office of the Audit Service at Koforidua in the Eastern Region. When he cut the sword for work to start, the Auditor General, Mr. Johnson Ekwamwa-Siedu, said as part of reforming the Audit Service, an additional 33 new regional and district offices will be constructed in selected regions and districts to ease pressure on the 72 existing offices of the country's Audit Service.
The Audit Service has 12 regional and 68 district offices across the country. Most of these offices are housed in rented premises. As part of efforts to establish its presence across the country, the government has secured an €11 million loan facility from the government of Germany to build 33 new offices in some selected regions and districts. The project will be executed by Hydroplan Germany, Polytechnic and the Eastern Regional Minister, Mr. Sethi Champon, reiterated government's resolve to retool state institutions for effective work.
The Ghana Audit Service, being an important part of our governance structure, could not have been overlooked. Hence, the construction of regional and district office blocks for the service. Public accounts of Ghana and of all public offices, including the courts, the central and local government administrations, the universities, and other public institutions of like nature, of any public corporation or other body or organization established by an Act of Parliament shall be audited and reported on by none other but the Auditor General of the Republic.
The Auditor General, Mr. Johnson Ekwamwa-Siedu, said out of the 33 new offices to be constructed for the service, 6 of the new regions will each have an office. The projects are expected to be completed by the end of 2022.
Ghana is progressively moving from a vaccine procuring country to a vaccine manufacturing country. As a result of COVID-19, it has improved on its healthcare systems, built capacity and expanded on its infrastructure. These are some identifiable lessons from the past 2 years since Ghana was struck by the pandemic. These were highlighted at the 2022 World Health Day celebration organized by the German Development Corporation GIZ and the Presidential Vaccine Manufacturing Committee. A report by Cyril Furi.
Although the commemoration of the World Health Day focused on the impact of health on the planet, the celebration in Ghana highlighted the impact of COVID-19 in the country. Inasmuch as COVID-19 threatened many economies and lives, it is also said to have presented developing countries especially with the opportunity to build resilient health systems.
Lives were lost, livelihoods were impacted, the physical and mental health of people were affected, normal business operations were disrupted, governments across the world overstretched their budget.
Interventions deployed by these countries and with the assistance of development partners have led to capacity building and further research. These have also come at a cost. The Emergency Preparedness and Response Officer at the WHO, Dr. Salian Ohene, said a lot can be learned from the pandemic in addressing the environmental impact on health. She hailed the decentralization of laboratory testing, adding that the enhanced surveillance can be built upon to strengthen early warning, alert and response systems. Following a roundtable discussion, a member of the panel and the medical director at the Ghana Infectious Diseases Center, Dr. Oliver Comer, shared some of his recommendations.
We sometimes appreciate what is done elsewhere, and the things we appreciate is because the people there have invested into health and have developed or strengthened their health systems. If we want to depend on our health systems here, we need to invest into our health systems. If we are going to depend only on donors to sustain our health system, then we do not have any health system.
The German government, together with the European Union, have rendered their support to Ghana in diverse ways to facilitate Ghana's vaccine manufacturing drive.
We have a financial support for the next 3 years of 5 million euros. And in addition, there is an European Union co-financing arrangement with an amount of 2.84 million euros. And the role is to use these funds to strengthen and to support the committee in several areas, such as strengthening of the workforces, but also the strengthening research and development.
By January 2024, Ghana would have produced vaccines from fill to finish and, in the long run, producing its own drug substance.
The fill and finish is the most difficult part of vaccine production, not the drug substance. The drug substance is just making it bulk, and then the fill and finish, you have to go, you bottle it, make sure it's clean, you make sure there's no particles, you make sure there are no pathogens that will have any effect, and that is where the problem is. And Ghana is putting itself in that way.
It is hoped that the Drugs Authority would be migrated to the WHO Maturity Level 4 by the end of the year to effectively regulate the production of the vaccines. Sarah Fori, GBC News, Accra.
The CocaCola Foundation is partnering the Ghana Red Cross Society to expand the awareness on COVID-19 vaccination intake across the country. In line with that, Coca-Cola has presented a check of $150,000 to the Ghana Red Cross in Accra to support the nationwide action plan to curb the spread of COVID-19.
The COVID-19 pandemic is both a public health emergency and humanitarian crisis that is negatively impacting the lives, health and livelihoods of the people around the world. From the onset of the pandemic, Ghana Red Cross Society and International Federation of Red Cross have supported the most affected communities, particularly the vulnerable and hard-to-reach groups. Although restrictions aimed at curbing the spread have been lifted, the Ghana Red Cross Society and the CocaCola Foundation have taken it upon themselves to engage communities in a two-way dialogue, derbers, radio jingles and awareness sessions on COVID-19 vaccinations to drum home the Stop the Spread campaign in remote areas.
Ghana Red Cross Society would use its unparalleled access to communities to access hard-to-reach areas for the registration of eligible people, and this would also support the delivery of the vaccines.
The Stop the Spread project is designed to reach an estimated 860,000 people in all the regions of Ghana in the next 10 months.
The CocaCola Foundation believes it can count on its partnership to carry out actions in the field and with the support of the local health authorities to effectively fight against this pandemic.
Ghana recorded its first COVID-19 case on 12 March 2020. Government then adopted the WHO measures to help curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic by introducing lockdowns and subsequently rolling out vaccination programs across the country.
And to a sad news, a wife of a late former Vice President Alhaji Aliu Mahama, Hajia Ramatu Mahama, has died. She was 70. The former Second Lady passed on at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital on Thursday. Hajia Ramatu Mahama had been fighting a heart-related sickness for over 2 years and had been to the United Kingdom for treatment. Her son, Farouk Mahama, who doubles as a Member of Parliament for Yendi, confirmed her death. According to him, a announcement was made to the government by her family members before she is buried. According to Islamic traditions, Hajia Ramatu Mahama was an educationist in Tamale. She is the daughter of the late Imoru Igala, a Minister for Trade and Industry and first black chairman of Cocoa Board in the First Republic, and a long-standing political stalwart in Ghana through to the Third Republic, doubling as a founder of the PNP, now PNC. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has already expressed his condolence to the family in a Twitter post. There's more ahead in this package of news. Please stay.
It's a nightmare dealing with the filth in Accra. With garbage, the streets are a jumble of filth. The beauty of the serene beaches is marred with human feces and plastics as many defecate in the open. Residents are up in arms when the situation gets out of hand.
Because of these meetings, you can't even stand there for even a minute. As we speak here, if the mosquitoes even refuse to breathe on it.
Partners in sanitation suggest alternative policy interventions.
Landfilling is not the way forward. We are recommending treatment facilities.
But in all of this, have we made gains in the sector?
How can you have a people who have a lot of dignity and still practicing identification?
The task facing Ghana to achieve SDG Goal 6 on clean water and sanitation for all is Herculean and riddled with equally complicated hurdles. Join us every Thursday on Wash Hour from 4:05 p.m. to 5 p.m. to put these issues and more in perspective. Watch a repeat on Fridays from 1 to 2 p.m. and on Sundays 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. It is our duty to keep our surroundings clean and free from disease.
Good afternoon, it's Friday. We bring you business updates now. My name is Morris Ogbete. Now, Ghana's debt would have stood at 68% of GDP if COVID-19, the banking sector cleanup debts and energy sector excess capacity charges were excluded. This, according to the Vice President, indicates that the public debt stock will have been lower than the 300 billion cedis as of the end of last year. According to the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, Ghana's debt increased by 17.6% to GDP between 2019 and 2021 because of these debts. We have on the line economist Mr. Paul Apiakunedu to give us his thoughts on this particular position by the Vice President. Good afternoon to you, Doc. Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? All right, so we'll try and work on the line to get Mr. Paul Apiakunedu on the line to respond to the Vice President's assertion that Ghana's debt would have stood at 68% of GDP if the COVID-19 debt, the banking sector cleanup debt, and the energy sector excess capacity charges were excluded the country's debt stock. Paul, can you hear me now? Good afternoon, Paul.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Right, so what...
Boris, can you hear me?
Sure, I can hear you. What's your thoughts on this position taken by the Vice President? I mean, is it justified to try to exclude the banking sector cleanup debt of 25 billion Ghana cedis and the excess capacity charges we pay in the energy sector from the public's debt stock?
Boris, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Right, so yeah. I'm asking if the Vice President is justified by trying to exclude these three expenditure items from our public debt stock.
Yeah, I think to be able to appreciate the current situation in which we find ourselves in unsustainable debt level, it is important to look at where we have come from.
Sure.
If you look at our debt stock as at 2009, we had 9.5 billion when Thomas took over from President Kufuor, and between 2009 to 2016, we increased our debt stock by more than 1,000% to 122 billion Ghana cedis. Then this government took over at that level in 2017. And as at now, we are at 351 billion Ghana cedis. Now, looking at these three items that you alluded to, that is the COVID-related expenses, which is up to about 6 billion. The banking sector cleanup, about 21 billion. And then the excess capacity charges. That consists about 50 billion of the debt stock. So even if we take that, that is just about 20% of the payment that we have had from 2017 to date. So indeed, we cannot blame all our problems on the excess capacity and also on the banking sector cleanup. I think some of the borrowings we have done the past 5 years haven't been responsible, just as we have done, we have been doing.
Especially when you look at the banking sector cleanup debt of 25 billion Ghana cedis. These are monies that the government borrowed to as it were, clean up the banking sector.
Those monies are with people. We have the special prosecutor. What have we done to be able to retrieve those monies? We cannot allow the taxpayer to bear that cost. I think it's important for the government to speed up processes to be able to retrieve monies from people who are responsible for the mess up in the banking sector. And the government that we should hold the government accountable. For instance, especially when we have an office of the special prosecutor whom we expect to be able to deliver with regards to retrieving some of these monies. And even with regards to COVID-related expenses, I think some expenses were bloated. For instance, we were told that we spent 122 million Ghana cedis on fumigation markets. I don't know the extent of fumigation that we did. That was basically in Accra, maybe Kumasi. How many markets did we fumigate to be quoting 122 million Ghana cedis? We talk about, free water, some of the expenses that we made in 2020. Was it justified? If you look at those who are connected to the Ghana Water Company, we are looking at average homes and rich homes. Most of the poor people are not connected to the Ghana Water. So is that an inclusive policy? Was it not just a populist policy, maybe to win political votes? So I think some of the expenses cannot be justified.
Paul, if you can hear me, Paul. When you look at the excess capacity charges, for instance, these are contracts that were signed by the previous administration. This particular government has complained for the past 4 years about excess capacity charges, and yet nothing, practical has been done about it.
Sure. We knew the problem right from the time they took over in 2017. So the point is, couldn't we have done something? Agreements that we had at a point, we even heard that they were planning to extend the contract by 10 years. I don't know if they are able to do that. So if the contract was not in our interest, why can't we even review the contract to save ourselves from those monies that we are spending, which we don't have, which we could have saved for more prudent expenses?
Mr. Paul Apiakunedu is an economist there. He joins us with his thoughts on the Vice President's address to the nation on the state of the economy. Yesterday, the Indian business community in Ghana and the Association of Ghana Industries have held a forum to discuss measures needed to propel the development of Ghana's manufacturing sector. At the forum in Accra, the president of the AGI, Dr. Enyim Dake, and the Indian High Commissioner to Ghana called for value addition to the country's raw materials.
In my visits to the regions where the cashew is produced, particularly when I visited Bono East, Ahafo, I'll soon be visiting Bono, I saw number of efforts being undertaken by the Indian businesses to explore the possibility to do value addition locally. And in fact, I was told by some of the businesses that in the years to come, there will be factories set up by the Indian businesses for pre-processing towards value addition of these products.
So you realize that most of our cashew export goes to India, but most of them are exported in its raw state. We are challenging our friends from India that for them, as they stay and live and have their business in Ghana, they should focus on processing the cashew nuts before they export. And therefore, we are calling on government to put in tax measures that will be a disincentive to exporting raw cashew. There should be tax waivers on rather exporting finished cashew bagged, well canned, well packaged into India. And that can be extended to other primary products, even pineapple, yam. When you're exporting them, you should pay punitive measure for export of the raw rice. If you process it and you want to export it, it should be cheaper rather.
Let's go to the interbank forex market, where the cedi is now trading at 7 cedi to the US dollar. The pound sterling is going for 9 cedis 29 pesos, and the euro at 7 cedis 75 pesos. Break. Stay with us.